everything knows this is a square, etc. But by the time we get to really the second generation after Kant, which is Hegel's generation, everyone has gotten to the point where they realize it's much more complex than that. And their answer really, and it's not just Hegel, but it's the whole generation, is looking at culture and language and trying to see how all of this kind of works out. And John Dewey is a Hegelian. So when we think about John Dewey, he's already aware of linguistic relativity as a part of the explanation for things. And so when we look at John Dewey, I want to go. Oh, I didn't want all of that. Oh, I still don't want all of that. That's not the way he looked when he was a kid, by the way. I always feel obligated to explain when you see the Wikipedia picture. This is that philosopher. You have to remember that, well, there's no real such thing as a self, a persistent self. So that's just a snapshot of him at a particular time in his life. In any case, notice he was born in Vermont, 1859, died 1952, so that was a year after I was on this earth, and went to University of Vermont. I mentioned that. From there, after he graduated, he went to Johns Hopkins University, which was where one of his mentors was Charles Sanders Peirce, who we've mentioned in the class, and that ties him into the pragmatists. So at that point, he's a Hegelian and looking at things from a dialectical perspective, but at the same time, he's also a pragmatist and becomes a pragmatist, although he refers to his philosophy as instrumentalism, which he explains that knowledge is an instrument. You get some really interesting problems with Hegelian philosophy, which, remember, is viewed as this dialectical process where knowledge is based on our social conceptions that we share and that evolve. So we end up with what's referred to as the sociality of reason. The famous expression is that what's real it's a famous expression, and I know it, except I can't find where I put it last. All right, let's just do this. Hegel, the real is the rational, and the rational is the real. Okay, I don't have to. Sorry about that. It was. I just didn't have it on the right shelf where I went to look for it. But so the rational is the real, the real is the rational, or the real is the rational. What does that mean? It means that what our society, as a social group, believes is rational is real. And in fact, for us, what's real is what we as a society think is rational, right? So when you look at like different voting groups, for example, a current example, and you see how, by the way, a democracy is meant to be in conflict because everybody has different points of view. It's actually amazing that we have two main parties and that they are in conflict with one another. You go to France, you have 5 parties. You go to Germany, you have 5 or 6 parties. Italy, I mean, there's a lot of places where...
We're not getting on a side tangent. We're not even supposed to have parties.
Well, yeah, they weren't part of the original Constitution, actually. It became kind of... In fact, have been more parties, Moose, Roosevelt's Moose Party, the Know-Nothings.
The know nothings. Yeah.
I love that name, the Know-Nothings. However, you get the idea that people, that argue about what's a fact within this Hegelian conception of knowledge, it makes sense that different social groups think of certain things as facts. What gives us an advantage of studying things this way is that we realize that, this group thinks this group thinks this group thinks this, and so on. So it's a sociological way of understanding knowledge. So, it's very frustrating, and I've had friends get mad at me, because they say, well, so what do you think is the case? And I go, well, these people think this.
Yeah.
These people think this. These people think this. And I think that's the case. These people, you can ask them, and they'll tell you, yes, I think this. And these people, yes, I think that. I think this. And I said, so that's what I think. These people think this. These people, and then they look at me and I said, but what do you think? And I look confused because I just explained. These people think this. These people think this. No, what do you think? And that's what I think. Is that different people think different things. They want me to pick and say which group of people are right. And from this point of view, you don't really have that. I mean, you can determine which group has a better, more practical, more pragmatic view of a particular problem. By how? By the way that problem is solved by that group's perception of something, right? So I can say there's better ways of thinking about something so far. And in fact, John Dewey, being a Hegelian, applies this dialectical process to the theory of inquiry, which, so if what's the easiest way to do this? I'll just go, let me go back to ChatGPT, because I already had it up. So if I go, this is ChatGPT, which I'm still playing with, and is actually part of my overall quiz question that I said, who's your favorite scientist? Is my quiz question. Galileo might be, but he's of course a long time ago. John Dewey, influential philosopher of pragmatism, outlined a systematic approach to inquiry. And I looked last night at a logic, I had the Copy logic book, and I opened it to scientific inquiry, and it's a more euphemistic expression of it, but basically it's Dewey's theory of inquiry. So let's not add more vocabulary to it. Let's just think about how, from a Hegelian point of view, in this dialectical process, do we develop knowledge in a social group, right? It's like scientists, for example. So we first have to recognize the problem. We have a problem. We need to solve this. So first, you begin with the recognition of a problem. There's uncertainty. We want to fix, something. Or a situation that disrupts habitual patterns of thought or action. And then this stage involves identifying that something requires further understanding or resolution. So the next step is clarification. Define the problem. We analyze it. What are the elements? Articulate the nature of the issue. And then what? We formulate a hypothesis of how we can fix this, right? So we come up with possible solutions. And use your imagination. What could we do to fix it? Next stage, what are the implications of all of this? If the hypothesis is correct, how do we solve this problem? And then now that we have a hypothesis, we can test it, right? You probably did this with science fair in grammar school, right? This is what you were taught, right? And remember, Dewey had an impact on our American education, big impact on lots of things. And the idea of each kid in a grammar school trying to do science is essentially part of what Dewey taught. But so you do this in, you probably had a poster that you had to do, with your various, I remember one kid, you get to volunteer and do teacher-like things, so I went as an evaluator or grader or whatever at a math fair for elementary, and that was fun, going through all the tables and seeing all the different projects and, wanting to give everybody an award. Me, I want everyone to have an A, right? My favorite, though, was this one kid that had iron filings or whatever all over him. He's into it, and he had all these iron bits and stuff on the table, and he had all these different magnets, and he had all these different experiments with magnets, that he was doing and explaining them. This is just a little kid, and the poster that he did was clearly hand written, of all the different things and everything. And I thought, this kid is a scientist. This kid knows what he's doing. He's excited about what he's doing. He's showing all these different types of experiments with mathematics, with magnets. A lot of the other ones, at the time, they looked like they just printed the thing off of Wikipedia, and then pasted it nicely with colors, pink and blue, beautiful. And everybody was grading those and giving them, stars and, ribbons and everything. Everybody was ignoring the kid that was the real scientist. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, this is the kid that, is doing the experiment. But, you test it, and what you can, you end up discovering is that maybe the hypothesis isn't confirmed. It doesn't work. So you have to go back and reevaluate. So you go back and reevaluate your theory of inquiry starts again. It's this dialectical back and forth. So this is Hegel and the process of thinking things through, solving problems, essentially. And it's the way we do it, so we, you had a point.
Oh, I was just going to say, it was an off comment, but I was going to say, we don't actually do this in school, though. We're given an eyeball or a rat or a problem to solve. The hypothesis is already there. We're just going through the steps. Nobody actually, or rarely does a student actually come up with a real hypothesis and try to actually solve it.
Yeah. Well, the way Dewey set it up in his activity school, it was called. It was a model school that he created at the University of Chicago in the philosophy department for children. And part of what he did was he got parents involved and created what's called the Parent Teachers Association. You all had to, if you've had children, or if you were ever a child yourself, you probably had your parents attend that kind of hateful meetings. Just waste of evening. But the theory is you got to get the parents involved in the education of the child. None of this. Everybody all goes to a one-room schoolhouse, no matter what age you are, and the teacher just teaches you by rote a whole bunch of things. That was the way it had been done, but ever since the activity school, I'm sure there must have been others that taught kids better than that. But this is the way that Dewey applied that. Now the interesting thing is that see what ChatGPT says about this. The problem with the word truth is that truth seems to be, well, this is true, so it should always be true. But in this dialectical process,